So now we would like to start the session 2, starting with a presentation by Mr. Hisashi Yamauchi from Yachiyo Engineering CO Ltd. He's a professional engineer working in the area of solid waste management more than 20 years in more than 25 countries. And in last year, Yachiyo Engineering and JICA has been conducting solid waste management baseline surveys in several African cities. So today we're going to see the presentation from Mr. Yamauchi on this topic. So Mr. Yamauchi, please, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Takeuchi-san. This is my pleasure to present in this third ACCP assembly. So I try to share my presentation. Okay. Again, ladies and gentlemen, as Takeuchi-san mentioned, in 2021, JICA conducted data collection survey on municipal solids management in African cities. And based on that, today I myself will make a presentation.
Mr. Yamauchi, sorry, maybe would you be able to put it in a slide presentation mode on your slide? PowerPoint.
Just a moment. Slide.
If that is a little bit difficult, maybe you can move on.
Nous tentons de mettre en plein écran la présentation de Monsieur Yamauchi.
Just a moment. Now trying to show. Let me have some time. Thank you.
Shall we? No, it's working, Mr. Yamauchi. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Okay, so based on the outcome of the JICA survey, I will present common challenges in solids management in Africa. So mainly the number 4 recommended cooperation framework for ACCP members is a key of my presentation. Background. So population in Africa will be more than 2 times in 2050, and while the amount of waste generated is estimated approximately 3 times in 2050. So as listed here, the collection ratio is low, at less than 55% in African countries, and therefore the sanitation and public health are threatened. So these are the survey covers 7 countries and 10 cities as listed here. And they have a different size of population and GDP per capita. Okay, according to the waste management sector position paper issued by JICA, the waste management stage level was categorized as stage 1, 2, and 3. Stage 1 is the improvement of public health. Stage 2 is a reduction of environmental impact and pollution prevention. The stage 3 is the establishment of a sound material cycle society through 3 R's. Stage 3 is the highest level. And for example, if we look at the collection, the stage 1 is collection ratios are low. So introduction to waste collection is quite important. In stage 2, expansion of collection might be introduced, and stage 3, source separation might be introduced. And regarding to final disposal, as listed here, stage 1, it may be open dumping, and stage 2 might be controlled dumping, and stage 3 might be sanitary landfill. Okay. So these are some evaluation of the 10 cities. So comprehensive evaluation was here as mentioned in the right side of the table, and each city like that. And this evaluation was done considering the legal system, collection, final disposal, and recycling. And for example, if we look at the Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, legal system is evaluated stage 1 because the lack of fundamental laws and regulations on solidus management and recycling. On the other hand, final disposal was stage 3, high level, because sanitary landfill is introduced here. Also, if we look at Kampala, Uganda, collection is stage 1 because the collection ratio is low, about 60%. And final disposal is also stage 1 because some possibility of a slope collapse. Even the cover soil is applied there. And the recycling also stage 1 because the recycling is only done by informal private sector only. So these are the way we evaluate over each city. And we put into the table here showing the vertical axis is the GDP and horizontal axis is population. And it can be said that lower GDP and this red part, lower GDP and lower population, all three cities categorized into stage 1. And this yellow part, the higher population, it means a large city, and lower GDP, all three cities are evaluated as stage 2. And this blue part, higher GDP. Most of them are stage 2 or stage 3. So this is the trend of the stage of the cities. And as a conclusion, based on the analysis of the survey result, it can be said that these 4 items. The first one, the good practice of cities in higher level of solid waste management can be useful for the cities in lower level of solid waste management. As for the stage 1 and stage 2 countries, mutual learning and horizontal linkage through training and dispatch of experts within the African region will help to improve common basic problems of solid waste management. And number 3, recycling are important for improvement from stage 2 to stage 3. While many countries show interest in waste to energy, however, careful analysis, including lessons learned from the developed countries, are required to ensure proper and sustainable operation. And the fourth, it will be useful to develop good practice from countries with a higher level of solid waste management and disseminate them through ACCP. And now I'm introducing several good practice found in the surveys. The first one is Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. GPS to manage collection vehicles was introduced, and bigger scale transfer station around 1,500 tons per day is operating. And next is Luanda, Angola. Landfill slope is properly managed with cover soil. Good landfill. And this one is Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The Fukuoka method was introduced for the rehabilitation of the current landfill. So reformation of the landfill slope to prevent the landslides was done, and the rigid collection pipe was installed. And in Kampala, Uganda, GPS to manage collection vehicle was introduced, and also the QR code to manage customer information is introduced here. I think it is a very much advanced technology here. And in Kampala, Uganda, the e-waste management is introduced here. And the Botswana, recycling station was introduced to introduce the source segregation. And in South Africa, Waste Picker Association was introduced to protect the right of waste pickers and integrate them officially. It is noted that the government support these activities. And also the South Africa waste solid waste management data in national level can be available on the website. And this is biogas power generation from the landfill in South Africa, Johannesburg. As in the keynote lecture by Professor Yukari Takamura yesterday, it's mentioned that the methane gas produced from solid waste management sector affect global warming. So such measures is quite effective to prevent such a global issues. And maybe private sector collection managed and monitored by the government in Abuja, Nigeria. Now I'm coming to the recommended cooperation framework. Is composed of 5 items. First, consolidation and management of waste data. Second, development of cooperation scheme based on city categorization. 3, sharing good practice through knowledge hub. 4, promotion of support through information aggregation and matching among donors. 5, promotion of private sector collaboration. And practical activities might be as follows. Maybe a regular publication of a municipal solid waste white paper, the planning and implementation of training and seminars workshop, networking among ACCP member countries, cities. So detail will be explained in the next coming 2 slides. This is okay. The assistance of obtaining waste-related data for each country city. I believe this is quite important. So as a tool, we can use the waste-wise cities tools, which is developed by UN Habitat, which is a rapid assessment tool that evaluates and monitor municipal solid waste flow in the city. And also identification tools for municipal solid waste management overview. This is just prepared by this survey. And also, it should be noted that SDGs should be considered for this data collection, especially the maybe indicator 11.6.1, which is a proportion of urban solid waste regularly collected and with adequate final discharge out of total urban solid waste generated by cities. So this information should be compiled into the ACCP municipal storage white paper. This is the recommendation. I should be noted here, the reliable data is required. Again, reliable data should be collected and compiled. Okay, and this is some sample of the JICA's cooperation project, grant aid, and technical cooperation project. So direction of improvement in solid by ACCP and donors might be considered most of the part of the waste management, as mentioned here. And this one is a recommended cooperation framework for ACCP members by each stage. As I explained, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, it might have some different contribution from the ACCP might be provided. And this is identification tools for municipal solid waste management overview. I just explained shortly. So this was also prepared in this survey. So it is composed of checklists and standard survey items. So the main purpose is to clarify the needs for support. And standard for survey item to clarify solid waste management stage, issues, and possible measures. Okay,
Mr. Yamauchi,
yes.
Maybe if you could wrap up because of the time. Sorry, thank you.
Right. This is the last slide. This is okay. During an infectious disease outbreak, necessary measures should be planned and implemented on solid waste management, as stated in the guideline. This is also prepared in the survey. Thank you. Sorry for the my presentation. Thank you, Takeuchi-san.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yamauchi. It's very important and very interesting practices from different countries, and then also very useful suggestions for the future ACCP activities. And then thank you very much again for emphasizing the importance of reliable data for advancing the improved solid waste management in African context. Thank you very much. Now I would like to move on to the presentation from the Dr. Mitsuo Yoshida. Dr. Mitsuo Yoshida is a senior expert at JICA, contributing to develop more than 90 JICA projects in the area of water resource development, pollution control, and waste management. He has worked in more than 30 countries addressing environmental and waste issues. Dr. Yoshida, yes, you're ready now. Perfect. So please, Dr. Yoshida, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Takeshi-san. Now that I'm talking about that some
Dr.
history of
Yoshida,
that.
sorry that
Yes.
seems like your screen is not being shared. Maybe could you try it again?
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Just wait. Okay.
Yes.
So
Now, yeah,
my
we are looking at.
Okay, thank you very much. My presentation is about the progress and challenge of the African Clean City Platform, ACCP, from 2017 to 2022. And actually, that since that 2017, the first
En
foundation
2017,
that I attended this ACCP,
j'ai été présent
and,
à l'assemblée d'ouverture
development, just I would
pour
like to
la
say,
CCP
and also
et
that I would
les développements qui se sont déroulés ensuite.
This slide is a population estimate from 1950 to 2022. You may know that this trend
Dr.
and
Yoshida?
Africa, yes.
Sorry that your screen is still, maybe you can make it the presentation mode, and then we are still looking at the first slide.
Okay.
If you have already moved on.
Okay, that's okay. And thing is, this is this is the African country.
Sorry,
Hello?
Dr. Yoshida.
Yes.
Which slide are you in now? We are still looking at the first slide.
Not changed.
It's not changed.
Okay,
Yes. Could you also do it in the presentation mode? Yes.
So again, that this is the presentation mode. It's okay.
No, it's not looking like a presentation
something that's wrong.
mode.
That's or maybe that maybe I will show that editing mode. Sorry.
Maybe she shares.
That's okay. Anyway, that I will do. Go ahead. That
Okay.
this one is
Please go ahead.
yes. Okay. This is the increase of the population in African continent, and only that Africa rapidly increased the population from 2020. Actually, that the waste amount generated will more than double at 2050. And it means that the generation of the waste also the same, more than two times. That so maybe that current situation of the in African city, I think that almost 55% are successfully collected from the city, but other 45% disappear or something accumulated inside of the residential area. It is a potential risk for public health, and maybe we have to change that situation. This is also another diagram of the the relationship between economic growth and municipal generation rate, and it is clear that in African city here that mostly that quickly, if that economic growth happen quickly, the waste amount increase. And next is that this is a waste collection service coverage, and it is the same that maybe that some good city there is a good city, but anyway that mostly that the waste collection rate is very low, and average is 55%. So if that we stay that this situation, in this case, maybe that the accumulation of happen, and also the waste management problem will face very difficult. And then this type problem, what happened? And world distribution of the infant mortality rate in 2017 show that in sub-Saharan country that very high rate of this mortality rate. Therefore, that this is a very typical indicator of the public health, and we have to change the situation. And how have we addressed this issue at ACCP? It is my question and our question. And the first meeting in 2017 in Maputo, ACCP was founded, and a series of knowledge sharing seminar and participatory workshop were organized and analyzed the issue on waste management in African city. And based on the result of analysis, challenge was summarized according to the 8 drivers in 2 categories: technical drivers and governance drivers, as well as capacity development. And it is a different. 8 driver mean securing underpinning part group is a legal system, institution, and norm, and the solid waste management waste data policy plan and program, and economic benefits and job creation, and public awareness and public opinion. Those 4 are underpinning factor drivers. And operational driver is securing public health and living conditions, protection of the environment, and combating the climate change and sustainable resource management. And those shall be, balanced development necessary in each city. And we discussed in the workshop meeting that we need to analyze in each city regarding to those 8 factors. And then, of course, that in order to achieve those, in order to activate those 8 driver capacity development in various levels, individual, organizational, institutional, and societal levels, capacity development is necessary. It was at that time that our conclusion. And next is in Rabat meeting. This is the first General Assembly meeting, and at that time, 3 terms were discussed. The first is the data collection for the SDGs, and second is a public-private partnership, and the third is a mobilization of funds to improve waste management. And also at that time, discussion paper for analyzing the current situation of ACCP country was presented, as mentioned in those 8 drivers. And the country reports were presented for sharing good practices. And private sector involvement or public-private partnership were emphasized in each country. And then, at that time, this is just a summary of that workshop discussion in the foundation meeting, and also that some analysis in each country. If that we compare all African countries, the first is the finance part, organizational establishment part, and the data collection part. Something that improvement according to that this economic growth. However, institutional development is very low for all levels, and at that time we emphasize that institutional development, especially to formulate law, regulation, and guideline. It clearly defines the role of each stakeholder. Is very necessary for establishing good solid waste management system in each city. That was the conclusion at that time. And then the second General Assembly was held in Yokohama in 2019. And at that time, based on the discussion of the Rabat, a data book on waste management of ACCP company was published, based on some additional study by JICA. But it was, pointed out that the problem was that availability of reliable data. Already that Mr. Yamauchi also mentioned, even in now, the same problem continued. And the importance of the data was emphasized for better waste management. And many lessons were learned from the 3R and waste reduction practice in Yokohama City. And discussion was made on the sustainable development goal and waste management. And this is a capacity strengthening of implementing agency. And at that time, that this capacity strengthening of implementation agency closely related to the data availability. So without good data, we cannot get good result of capacity development. And at that time also, that in order to use that those, in order to achieve this SDG goal, to goal 11 and 12, maybe that this data reliable data-based management cycle shall be established and prioritize the policy of solid waste management. And then, after the second assembly of 2019, two practice was done, mainly that by that Mr. Yamauchi mentioned that detailed study of each city, and also that UN Habitat has launched the Waste-Wise City to work. And yesterday, that Takevich-san presented in this session, and that practice also that each city is some detailed data analysis and maybe planning the waste management. And so that as a general, that situation is a since mapped foundation meeting, that institutional development analysis of a workshop and regional survey was done. And then next is a study tour, exchanging information, and in-depth study or work practice, data collection, and SDG. Those, development we can find. And only remaining issue is based on those, analysis and the data, how to mobilize the fund and the support of each country's finance as well as international donors' finance. It is still remaining topics. Conclusion, the efforts of ACCP over the last 5 years have clarified the challenge for improving the waste management in African cities. And with today's population growth and urbanization, there is little doubt that amount of waste generation in Africa will more than double by 2050. And at this rate, waste management systems can become dysfunctional. Even today, with 50% waste collection service coverage, it leads to a significant deterioration in public health conditions. This is nothing more than human-made disaster. First, it is required to focus on enhancing the waste collection and capacity, improvement of service coverage, and then to construct a landfill site for proper disposal of the waste collected in this way. And for that purpose, it is necessary to develop institutions, establish the implementing system agency, and promote sufficient investment for infrastructure development, regardless of public or private sector. And the firm ownership of partner countries, ACCP will play important role to provide a place or a hub for information exchange, to share the data on solid waste management, and to promote technical cooperation for supporting. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yoshida, for the in-depth analysis on the data and then the information on the capacity gaps in Africa, and then also emphasizing the next step, also the importance of the fundraising for the project to create tangible impacts. So now I move on to our next presentation to be provided by Dr. Godfrey Natto. Dr. Godfrey Natto is a County Executive Committee member of Environment from Mombasa County, and he has been instrumental in mobilizing funds for a number of waste management projects in Mombasa following our collaboration in Waste-Wise Cities tool application. Is Dr. Natto here?
Yes, I'm there now.
Hi, Dr. Natto. Great. Now we are seeing your screen and seeing the Zoom link. However, we would like to see your presentation. Can you share your? Yes, perfect.
Yeah. You can see
looking
the
great. Thank you, Dr. Natto. Floor is yours.
Is it seen now?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, thank you now, and thank you for inviting me to speak in the third ACCP assembly. My title is from SDG Indicator 11.6.1, Tangible Action, the case of Mombasa County, which is in the port city of Mombasa in Kenya. And briefly, what I will do is I will take you through the results of the Westwise Cities tool that we implemented in 2019, the actions that then that tool recommended that we do, and what we are doing so far, and most importantly, how the tool has helped us to attract some funding towards proper waste management in Mombasa. I want to start with this slide, the importance of data. I think before 2019, there was a myth that 2,200 of solid waste per day. And I think this is been enforced by what was observed at that time, the mountains of solid waste that the county. And at that time, I think the government of the city of Mombasa was thinking of investing in waste to energy plants to absorb all the waste that was thought to have been generated. But I want to report that the Westwise Cities tool then debunked this myth when we realized that the volumes we actually generate may not be 2,200 as earlier thought. In my second slide, therefore, I present the actual picture that was established in 2019, that the amount of waste generated at that time was in the neighborhood of 879 tons per day. And if you look at the collection efficiency, it was slightly above 46%, with over 470 tons of waste collected and therefore leaking into the environment. If you look at that diagrammatic expression also, the management of waste in controlled facilities, particularly for recycling purposes, was as low as 5%. With the 375 tons being directed to the open dump site in 2 locations within the county. So after those results, we identified 3 areas of possible intervention. And one of them was that there was need to improve the waste collection efficiency so that we move up the 474 tons that were being directed into the environment per day. Number 2, the second point of intervention was to boost material recovery, to move from the 5% that was at the time to a higher percentage by involving quite a number of stakeholders and the private sector recycling companies. And then intervention number 3 we identified was then
Maybe we lost Dr. Natto. The internet connection might be a little bit unstable there. Seems like. Dr. Natto, I think we lost Dr. Natto now.
Yes, now Dr. Natto seems to be no longer on the call as well.
No longer on the call, so seems like the connection. Okay, so it was a very interesting presentation was about to start. However, we lost Dr. Natto, so we would like to go into a next presentation. And then once, Veronica, could you let us know if when the maybe Dr. Natto is coming back? Is he back now?
Not yet, seems like it.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. It is very unfortunate. Maybe in the meantime, we're going to get in touch with him, but we would like to move on to the next presentation.
He's actually back.
He's back?
But then his speaker is not on.
Dr. Natto, are you back here? I don't think so. Is he back or no?
He's on the chat.
He's in the chat. Dr. Natto?
Oh, okay. I think we can just go to the next one. I sent a message and it said he's not in the meeting.
Okay, so let me go to the next presentation. Apologies for the technical problems. So we would like to move on to Dr. Hamadi Kisebi. Is Dr. Hamadi, are you there? Yes, great. So Dr. Hamadi is Director of Property Department, Sousse Municipality of Tunisia. He's been the key person for our past collaboration with the ACCP Secretariat in applying Waste by Cities 2 and developing projects to support informal waste sector with the UN Habitat Tunisia office. So please, Dr. Kisebi, if you are ready, floor is yours.
Oui. Bonjour. Je commence la présentation.
Yes, Mr. Kasibi, we can hear you. You can start your presentation, and I would just kindly like to encourage people who would like to follow the presentation in English to join the interpretation channel that you can find under a globe saying interpretation, and there you can click on English to follow the presentation in English. Thank you. Mr. Kasibi, the floor is yours.
Alors, ma présentation, ça va être en langue française.
Now we are, yes, now I hope that everybody is seeing the presentation.
Voilà.
Yes, we can see it.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes,
Oui.
it's good.
Great. So, Dr. Kisebi, floor is yours. Please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Je commence la présentation.
Yes, the presentation is there. Can you go to the next presentation?
Alors, Vos Excellences, collègues, Mesdames et Messieurs, bonjour. C'est un privilège d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui.
I'm here with you today. I am Hamadi. I am a director of properties and clean services in the city of Sousse. Our experience in the use of the WAC tool and the planification of all the management related to solid waste.
From the English channel. Veronica, are you hearing English from English channel?
I'm
Yes?
hearing
Okay.
English in the French channel. Yeah.
You are hearing English in the French channel?
Well, you're hearing two in the same channel.
Yes.
Oh.
So both are happening in the same
In
channel.
the same channel. So yeah, maybe the interpreters, apologies for the technical problems. Interpreters, please be in the English channel to provide English interpretation.
It is good now.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Good now? Okay. Dr. Kisebi, I'm sorry for the apologies for the technical problems. Please go ahead for your presentation. Dr. Kisebi? Please go ahead for your presentation.
Vous êtes prêts? Est-ce que je commence?
Yeah, good. English. No?
Yes, we are in English.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Dr. Kisebi, please
Oui.
go ahead for your presentation.
Est-ce que je commence?
Oui.
So as said before, this presentation is about the application implementation of the waste tool and the planification of the solid waste management. So it's with great pleasure and privilege that I'm here today for this assembly for the Clean Cities. My name is Hamadi Kesibi. I'm a director of the Property Clean Services at the city of Sousse. And I'm going to present our experience in the use of the planification with the Way City tool. I would like to first underline the management of solid waste to what every city is challenged today with, and in the goal to improve the cleanliness of Sousse. And we've partnered with the ACCP program and all the members through the network of ACCP network. So through the adhesion to this platform, Sousse is essentially trying to develop a system of management integrated and sustainable with solid waste. The independence and collaboration of the civil society through NGOs, private sectors and informal sector, establish better condition of work for waste speakers in the chain flow of a management, to develop innovating projects and valorization projects and valorization of the energy that is being used, and share the good practices among people. What does the tool measures? The objective of sustainable cities and communities is 11.6.1. Will identify the quantity of solid waste collected in all the different structures, in the totality and total quantity of solid waste given by the city. And in order to do that, We'll go through, in order to do that, we'll go through some indicators and use the technology given by the tool, composed of 7 steps. First one is preparation. Step 2, production and composition of all the household waste. And of course, the composition of all the household waste. Calculate the production of solid waste through non-household. Calculate the quantity of solid waste received in all the different structures, control structures, and identify all those solid waste and the level of control that is being applied. 6th step, composition of all the solid waste arriving at the different structures. And finally, the calculation of the solid waste, recycling, leakage, greenhouse effect, and air pollution. In order to do that, we've been putting together trainings. Training and meetings with municipal technicians from the city. Society, the civil society of the city, private sector. So we've trained all of these people on notions of planification and waste management, and on the different steps in order to get to the last step. We've made samples in about 90 households in the city, in 3 different zones in the city: north, south, and the west. 90 households have been retained, with which we've worked, and we've been able to collect, going door to doors upon 7 days, and realize surveys, essentially done by volunteers that have been working. 24 volunteers recruited and have volunteered in order to do that survey, in order to collect solid waste in those 90 households. Recycling and identify the characterization and composition of the solid waste. We've also hired collectors, waste pickers, in those different places. The name is and landfills that you can see on the pictures here.
One could that the quantity of waste collected in underground activities, so we have 185 tons per day of waste generated by the city of Sousse, 107 tons per day are household waste, 89 tons are non-household waste, 26 tons are recycled.
Maybe could you start wrapping up due to the time limitation? Thank you.
So 240 tons a day are placed in disposal facilities.
Donc, 29 tonnes de déchets par jour.
29 tons of waste a day are not recovered. So ODD 11.6.1 estimates that 90% is to be managed and controlled in the town of Sousse. From the data gathered, we were able to analyze the composition of waste. 57% of this waste is food or kitchen waste. There's also cardboard and paper waste, which can be recycled. As a result, 62% of this waste is either biodegradable or so this biodegradable waste is under the national average of 63%. This allowed us to organize planification workshops and to identify several issues relative to data recovery, relative to waste recovery. So this waste is scattered and is collected in an informal way. And this has created black spots within the city, difficulties in poorer neighborhoods where people where awareness must be raised. And there's also difficulty and damage when it comes to containers to store this waste. This creates annoyances and problems for town management. There is also the question of tax deriving from waste management and the way waste can be valued. At the moment, there's an absence of programs to value this waste, and in the absence of selective sorting, recycling, and so on, whether this be organic or not, we have a lack of data on what can be recycled. And the sorting center next to the town of Sousse is poorly managed. Next slide, please. We also singled out 4 priority fields of intervention for action and to achieve projects to improve cleanliness in the town of Sousse. Next slide. So these are activities to recycle and value waste with fields for intervention. So we shall base ourselves on reinforcing recycling activities and activities that value waste, and we shall include the informal sector in this process. Next slide, the strengthening of initiatives and investment in the circular economy, reinforcing our capacity and the means of citizens to reduce and minimize waste produced. To achieve this, these fields of intervention and basing ourselves on the results of the WACT tool. Therefore, we have identified and prioritized several projects brought together in 4 themes. The first is relative to managing biodegradable waste. And objective is to encourage composting activities for green waste in the city, the voluntary collection of biodegradable waste, the biomethanization of organic matter in the Sousse region, and providing support for valuing organic waste by the installation and follow-up of collective composting sites. And equally, to promote composting within the home, the composting of biodegradable waste within the home. The second main theme, concerns managing recyclable waste. This includes setting up detection systems in the large structures of the city of Sousse. Next slide, please. So, selective sorting, program rewarding sorting in public environment, developing the application of a selective plan for waste recovery in the Medina. So, third theme, optimizing collection operations, recovery operations. Next slide, please. So, third theme, optimizing recovery operations. Firstly, optimizing circuits for waste recovery, then the development of a containerization plan to improve the collection of waste in the city. And the final and most important theme, so next slide, concerns awareness raising and reinforcing eco-citizenship. Firstly, to put into place an awareness program for waste management in primary schools and daycare. Secondly, raising awareness to reduce food waste in the city, then improving awareness actions for tax collection, and finally, elaboration of a program to eradicate the worst areas in zones which are marginalized or adjacent to rivers and canals. So these were identified during meetings which brought together different actors, all the different actors in this field, and we must therefore, to achieve the project, we must have technical support to prepare preliminary studies of certain proposals, evaluate project feasibility, for example. Based on the categorization. So there are applications we need to achieve these projects and make them a priority in the town of Sousse, with planification in collaboration with the WACT tool. I would like to thank all the partners who have put together this research on a municipal level. So, and especially voluntary workers in the field, despite difficult sanitary conditions, and all the different actors as well as UN Habitats. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Give you this presentation.
This is very informative and very detailed about the to how the waste cities too can be applied under the ACCP. So thank you very much for your presentation. I think that was very informative for the ACCP members being here as well. So now I would like to ask again, Dr. Natto. Now I can see Dr. Natto here. So maybe could you try to continue from where you dropped? You were talking about the waste flow at the time.
Yeah, thank you now, and sorry for the
Thank you.
interruption. Could it be possible to upload my presentation from your side?
Sure. Now we're doing it. No, this is not there. Yes, we are seeing it. I think this is where we were.
No, we were on the next slide.
Next slide, yes.
Yes. After this one. Yeah, exactly. I think this is where I was. The future waste flow, and sorry again for the interruption. So these are the 4 areas of interventions that we have planned to concentrate our action on. As I mentioned earlier, the first one is to focus on separation, segregation of waste at source, and also creating awareness amongst the population and the waste managers on the need to segregate and to manage waste accordingly. The other area of intervention is to focus on improving the collection efficiency and also the capacity of the county to transport the waste from the point of collection to the final disposal, and also improve the infrastructure for basically material recovery, and then finally improve the disposal side. So quickly on where we are now, we have developed the necessary legislation. We have an act on solid waste management that then emphasizes on the need to segregate municipal solid waste into 2 streams, the wet waste and the dry waste. We have started the process of formalizing the informalities within the waste management sector by registering all the companies, community-based organizations, and youth groups that are involved in waste management. We have also embarked on the process of training them and giving them the necessary equipment to operate. And then at the moment, I think we are now in the 3rd phase of focusing on building the necessary infrastructure for material recovery facilities. The next slide, please. Yeah, so I just want to briefly go through the current funded projects. As I did mention earlier, that the results of the Westwise Cities tool has enabled us, one, to then refocus our attention appropriately, but also more importantly, attract some funding that then help us to implement the actions that I have mentioned in the previous slide. So the first organization that is working with us is Worldwide Fund for Nature Kenya, and we are running 3 programs with them. The first one is a program funded by Danida called Waste to Value. And what this project is doing with us is to then build the capacity of community-based organizations and private individuals who are involved in waste management so that they can create decent jobs within the waste management sector. The second project is infrastructural support towards the material recovery facilities and general recycling. And we have received funding from the Coca-Cola Foundation. And this funding is basically helping us to develop the material recovery facilities that then can be accessed by the community-based organizations. And then the last project with this organization is an extended producer responsibility project that is funded by NORAD And within this project, we are trying to integrate the waste managers into the EPR scheme that is being developed by the national government, and also develop the business model for innovations, particularly in the plastic waste management sector. But this project is also supporting the infrastructural development of material recovery facilities, giving community-based organizations the necessary equipment to enable them operate in decent environment, link them to the markets, but most importantly also give them the three-wheeler automobiles to enable them to collect the waste effectively. And then next slide, please. This organization is called Hand in Hand Eastern Africa, and it has we have 3 projects with them. The first one is called Green Enterprise Project, and under this project we are basically creating awareness amongst the population on the need for waste segregation at source, training and supporting the development of green enterprises by community-based organizations as well. The second project is called Taka Afya Project. Basically, this is a health project that then equips the waste collectors with the necessary PPEs, and also providing them with first aid kits so that in case they have injuries as they operate, they can address those injuries. But most importantly, also the project is offering vaccination to the waste collectors and other players within the sector. The third project is the Taka Express project, and the intention of this project is to focus on supporting the waste collectors in effective collection and transportation of the waste to the transfer points from the source of generation. And then the final project is the Recycling Center Support Project, and under these projects, when we are building recycling centers in the community. And then the next slide, please. This is now a new project that is coming in by the European Investment Bank, and this is basically a fund that is will operate in like a grant and matching fund. And the intention of this project is one, to develop the infrastructure as well for waste separation at source. Also focus on infrastructure support towards material recovery facility, basically supporting the private sector to develop these facilities. And also the intention of the project is also to focus on composting of the organic component of our waste stream. So these are the efforts that we are actively engaged at the moment. And I want to believe that when we implement the tool again, we should be now having a very high collection rate. And I think the material recovery rate is also probably above the 5% that I reported earlier. So I think that's the end of my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Natto. This is very impressive. That the amount of the project, the number of the project that you have developed, or like the Waste by Cities leverage as well, like Waste by Cities 2 application, and then the reliable data really leveraged in your country, in your county, sorry. Thank you very much. So now I would like to move on to the next final presentation from Mr. Takele Deisa Busha, Director of Research and Consulting Service, Solid Waste Management Agency of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. He's been also the key focal point from Addis Ababa for our past collaboration with the ACCP Secretariat in Apply with Waste by Cities 2, and then also conducting awareness raising program together with us. So, Mr. Takele, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, great. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Is that okay? No.
We are still waiting for the contents to come up, slides to come up. Yes, now I'm seeing your desktop.
Is that visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Thank you very much. I'm Fakali, as you already explained. I've been working as research and consultancy service for the last 6 years in the state administration. Also, I've been working as an expert with this as a technology transfer that is directly related to the solid waste management in the city administration. And directly for this presentation, first, I would like to thank you for your invitation to be part of this platform. So I would like to give you a highlight on the awareness creation status, or that is what has been going in this, and as well as on the results of YCP2 results that have been conducted in this. To give you just to bring you in the center of this is to highlight a picture. As you all know, that's this and the African Union office is there, the nations and nationalities square is there, the friendship is there. Even when you come to at the Bole point, there is a skylight hotel for your invitation. Next, if you are in a position to join at this, just simply to bring to your mind this situation. As you know, the high population increase everywhere in Africa, so the world, contributes to the generation of large amounts of wastes in the places. So this is why everybody is focusing on waste management. If you come to that of Addis, even there is collection, transportation, and disposal, especially in landfill sites, which is more than 50 years of age. So that is why we have been focusing. Basically, as a purpose of waste management, the Principal Management Agency is established to work on this appropriate waste management system to reduce, reuse, sort, collect, and transport, and basically treat and properly dispose the solid waste generated by our sources in the area through different structures established. So the agency has been structured from the city level to the Warada or district level, having different structural or organizational structures, basically focusing on awareness raising and the public participation as one stream. Secondly, focusing on recycling and reuse to change wastes into resource. But the other thing is, at another stream, the service delivery on collection and transportation. And finally, we have been working as administering the landfill appropriately as another stream department. And to support all of these streams or departments to manage solid waste management properly, there is a director of research and a project management as an important structure to support all the activities of this waste management system in the city. Just simply to give you highlights, as of 2020, an independent consultant conducted research on waste management of generation and characterization. And from the waste generated, about 74% of the waste generated is biodegradable, of which 17.4 is recyclable, and the remaining others are more of garbage wastes that are mixed with the wastes generated and collected in the city. So if you look at the household waste generation per capita per day is about 0.48, and street cleaning is about 52.8, and the institution generation in kilogram per institution per day is about 2.84. Until if you see this household waste is generated from the overall waste generation, 76% of the waste generated is that of households from different institutions are about 9%, and the street cleaning 6%, from industries or factories which are mixed within this waste about 5%, from that of other centers like hotels 3%, and the other hospitals and health institutions maybe about 1%, because these health wastes are managed independently by the institutions by themselves. So in general, focusing on the issues that are basically needs attention is very important. As the previous presentations highlighted, scientific waste collection mechanisms should be needed. So every issue should be, the collection should be scientifically needs a focus. Either wastes are thrown on the streets, burned in an open, or used for cooking purposes in many countries of Africa as well. Drains or clogged with solid wastes, and the lack of efficient collection mechanisms still drives a kind of behavioral tendencies, even as Dr. Yoshida explains, one of the driver or the promotional agents should be public awareness and public opinion in his presentation. So awareness and the public participation needs a focus. Therefore, training of waste unit employees and collection staff as an awareness creation, door-to-door awareness creation also needs a focus. Awareness session in schools should again have to get a focus. Even infrastructurally, these are the issues that should be needs focus based on the kind of waste generated. Even in case of Addis, composting infrastructures are a need to manage waste properly, as more of the waste generated are organic, and even setting up solid waste centers are very important. That needs a focus. Even supplying recyclables for recycling units also needs focus, and these are some of the issues that needs focus. So in this presentation, why I need to focus on awareness creation is due to the existing practices currently in the city. Explaining or giving a highlight on the awareness creation and public participation is very important. Why do focus is it needs an official's attention for the improvement of waste management. There must be media coverage that improves or contributes to the waste management, bringing the issue to the mind of the citizens or the residents. Sectoral integration should be also a needs which has to go through within the city. Residents should start sorting and segregation at source. The community to produce compost at local level needs also awareness, even that contributes to their livelihood. Even community participation to the cleanup campaign is also a point that contributes for this awareness creation, and the beginning or the contribution of the residents to support the waste management by itself is an important point. Even participating schools in this waste management has its own contributions basically to change the behavior of the society or the community within the city, so that the waste management system could be improved in the city. Therefore, what is currently going on? If this is so, currently within the city, there is a door-to-door awareness creation. As I have explained earlier, the city administration or the agency has, it is a structural arrangements towards the district level. So there are expertise to give awareness for the households door-to-door. This is one of the strategy of the structural organizational arrangement that extends to the district level. Those expertise are responsible to create awareness door-to-door. Again, training should be given to those who are living within the line of the structure, as well as to the communities, so as to improve that waste management. Even the cleanup campaign, which has been started years ago, changes from time to time. For instance, in 2012 in Ethiopian calendar, the cleanup campaign was monthly based. based on the results or the improvements of the waste management, again, it continued in 2013 on a monthly basis, and finally in 2014, this year, it was changed to weekly basis cleanups campaign that is going on within the city with the incremental due attention of higher officials given. Another important experience that has been going is that there was different educational exhibitions, experience sharing, trips to waste management facilities, especially to the recycling centers, and visitors has been taking place within the city so as to increase the awareness and the participation of the public. Finally, as an important component of awareness creation, different media participated to give coverage of the awareness creation through all these explained situations, so that the mind of the people or the perception of the people gave attention to the waste management so as to improve the clean city, as well as whether waste has been recycled or not as is a resource. And several media has been even print media, social media, press releases, televisions, radios as well has been contributing or participating in this kind of awareness within the city. Just pictorially, we can see here experts who are responsible to create awareness door to door has been doing their activities like this one. If you look at the first picture, there is a door to door awareness creation by expertise. Even there is a kind of community conversation among the community in their local community to have an understanding or an awareness about the existing waste within the city. Even at the schools, during their starting in the morning, teachers are responsible or willing to create awareness for students about the waste management. Even those street cleaners even have creating their own awareness when they have been working on this kind of cleaning activity. Even the higher officials gave attention for the cleanup campaign. If you look at the first one, the city mayor went to the cleaning areas and give awareness for the community as they are responsible to clean their community. Even the deputy city mayor, as well as the general manager and the other officials has been contributing or participating in the cleanup campaign, which has strongly contributed for the awareness creation within the city. So if those officials are the model for the community and the public figures even that exists in the community has been participating in the cleanup campaign, so that they give the attention of the community, to attract the attention of the community to clean up the city, so that awareness has been increased. And these are all the communities have been participating in the cleanup campaign, which contributes strongly for the awareness of the community and the participation. Even if you look at this one, schools by themselves give attention to clean their compounds and their surrounding. So all these kind of activities or events that has been taking place in the city contributed to increase the awareness of the community and the residents. As I have indicated earlier, visitors have contributed for the awareness of the students. If you have been working on schools or on students, working on one student to the minimum has been influencing two people, the father and the mother. So currently what is going in the city is working in the school is one of the strategies we have been using to create awareness in different schools, basically even being with other partners rather than the city administration. We have been working on the schools, especially visiting the recycling products. This is a program organized in collaboration with the UN Habitat at this in the city, for the students have been visiting the recycling products. And even at the bottom, you are looking officials visiting the recycling center, paper recycling center, so that how can we exploit or use paper for recycling. And then this is the deputy manager of the city administration, even being with other officials visiting the recycling centers. And all these have their own contribution to awareness of the people. Again, if you look at this open dam site, this was the open dam site that was highlighted in the previous presentation. This is Rapi Waste to Energy even. The city mayor have been visiting the Rapi dumping site. This Rapi dumping site was just improved after the Fukuoka technology, as explained earlier. The Fukuoka technology brought to Addis not only the physical appearance, even there was a sharing of experience, there was a training. Our expertise after training on the Fukuoka methodology, they have been implementing the experiences and the training or the know-how they have shared, even being in Japan, as well as practically with those expertise from Japan working on the improvement, the rehabilitation of this waste management. And so somewhat there's a kind of rehabilitated control dam site, what we have been using. The city mayor also visiting here to bring the issue of waste management to the mind of the community. Beside this one, there was a school advocacy with a special focus on some selected schools who have been working with UN Habitat. Basically, we do have a sister city agreement with Austria Vienna. Based on that agreement, a UN Habitat facilitated a kind of pilot project selecting 30 schools to implement this waste management practices, basically focusing on waste segregation at the school level and basically composting at the school level to create awareness, especially to increase resource efficiencies in the city, as well as to promote the 5 R's that you can say: rethink, reduce, reuse, recycle, and refuse, in the use of single-use items, especially under the waste-wise city challenges and supported by the Urban Pathway Project, sponsored by the International Climate Initiative. This is our city cleansing management will implement this kind of projects with the schools, especially being with the primary school environmental protection club. So accordingly, it was with objective to implement awareness raising program on solid waste management at the selected schools, especially with environmental protection club. So expecting with the outcome of awareness raised among the selected primary schools, environmental club, and as an output, organized trainings and sensitization activity of the organized selected schools. Then, so far, through this pilot project, we have been so far as a progress. There was a kick-off meeting conducted there, training of trainers were being taken place, and the educational visits to the plastics recycling center was performed so far. This was the kick-off meeting conducted within this project. At that time, the city government leaders were there, students were participating.
Mr. Takele?
Yes.
Yes, maybe because of the time limitation, would you be able to wrap up? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The ACCP website. I think that will be shared with all the people, and then thank you very much for wrapping up all these things. Apologies for the limited time for this. But it's very, very impressive, and thank you very much for the comprehensive and a very impressive effort for the awareness raising. I think it's been very inspiring for the many participants here, considering the importance of the awareness raising and also behavioral change for the challenges that we are facing in solid waste management in Africa. So now this is the end of session 2. Now I would like to open the floor for the raise your hand and then
Now
please turn on your camera.
Okay. Now it's muted. It was breaking a bit, but it is still muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
But we cannot really use this one. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, great. Okay. Mr. Adele, you are muted just in case you're talking.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. If you allow me, I'm really very impressed about the overall presentation of today. I will start with Mr. Yamauchi from WEC and Professor Yoshida concerning the survey, the JICA survey, and the other issues described in these two presentations. I'm really very impressed about the planning made. The scheme of planning is really very useful and can be also used by us in some of our planning at the local or at the city level. One more issue I want to comment is the concern of public health. When planning for this survey and the collecting reliable data, we know that it's challenging in everywhere in the world having credit data about related to the public health, and we are in this session of ACCP. We are focused on the COVID. So I think in the public health concern should be highlighted more. Even so, beyond the COVID, we have public concern, of course, should be there everywhere. The second point is the technology options, which is really, I have read in the previous ACCP session a lot about the technology options. But I think for the most of the African countries, the characteristics of the West is quite similar. I'm not sure about that, but it looks like quite similar from the data we have seen in many sources of data about the Western Africa. So the technology is really a concern, and availability of that technology should be very clear also in our future discussion. Best available technologies, best environmental practice. I'm really happy to share that my colleague from many African cities have presented some of this concern. But sharing this is really very important. And the adequate technologies provided earlier by Yokohama City, what's called the Fukuoka, that related with the organic waste is really very also. We are here are studying the applicability of such kind of technologies here in the small cities. The issue of we discussed it yesterday. I have it concerning the finance. I'm here the very good discussion about the integrated approach. Of course, I see many of my colleagues in their presentations, focusing particularly Mr. who's from Mombasa, Mr. Natto. He's really mentioning something very interesting, reflected to me in my understanding that government cannot do everything alone. So that integrated approach is really very important. For we have to working in a multi approaches, public services, private sectors, external fund, and also I'm really impressed about the funding scheme provided by my colleague from Kenya concerning the EBR, the CSR, the eco-tax. Maybe I should add carbon financing. Thanks to my colleague from Tunisia, from Kenya, and from Ethiopia, my colleague from Tunis is mentioned very also interesting about the community engagement. This is really also very good experience we can learn about. The engagement of the informal sector is really very important in most of the African countries, is including us, Egypt. That concern is very highlighted how to deal with the informal sector. I know the term informal have different interpretation in different countries, but by us, we attract the informal sectors to be engaged in the value chain of the waste management. One more issue I want to highlight is also linkage with my reaction of yesterday, which related to the cross-sectorial issues that the ACCP can also focus on, like other finance resources in the term of mobilizing the resources. I know the UNEP is a good partner with us here, with UNITA, with Habitat, and the Japanese government. I think UNEP have what is called SIP, Institutional Sustainable Infrastructure Investment Partnership. Maybe we can look how they are also dealing with. We have many infrastructure in the waste management, and they are also have different approaches in that. I mean, to maximize the value of our platform, we can also linkage to what the UNEP doing. One more issue in UNEP is through my work with some of the multilateral environmental convention.
Mr. Adel, could you wrap up? Could you wrap up, please? Yeah, we would like to also give a floor to other people. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So the linkage with other UN organization, it's also a concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adel. So now I also would like to give the floor. There's one question from Francois on the chat to Dr. Natto from Mombasa. I am impressed of the number of the projects and external support your city's benefits. May we know the secret behind that? Dr. Natto, would it be possible for you to answer this? And then after that, I would like to give the floor to our UNEP colleague to answer some of the questions raised by Mr. Osman. Dr. Natto, are you here? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, I have been asked that question a number of times, what's the secret? And then sometimes I tell people that there is basically no secret as such. But I think what's important is that with the results of the wastewater cities tool, you have a clear picture of what it is that needs to be done. And if you remember, I presented the future waste flow, the desired waste flow for us. So once we had that, we developed a multi-stakeholder forum that brings on board all players, national government, national agencies, private companies, and NGOs that operate within our region to be members of that forum and that platform. So through that platform, then we influence action by our respective stakeholders within that platform. But also more importantly is sometimes we go all the way and develop targeted proposals to entities that we think can then support us. So I think being proactive, being in a network of other players should be able to attract funding. And then of course, joining global platform like the Wastewater Cities platform. Now we have joined the Smart City platform. We are now members of the Covenant of Mayors for Sub-Saharan Africa. So that then increases your visibility. And then once you share your experiences, your plans, and if the plans are very, very clear, you should attract funding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Natto. And then maybe that Dr. Yoshida is also raising hand, and I think you.
Okay. In response to Mr. Osman's argument, that just I would like to talk about how can we get the reliable data. And the thing is this issue we continuously discussed since Rabat meeting. And there are three different opinions, or three components. The first is awareness of decision maker or some head of organization. And always that every participant pointed that this issue is one of the most big barrier about this. And second is information disclosure. Already that we JICA also made this regional study, but sometimes very difficult to get the data in public space. And directly we communicated with the focal point or some government authority. And then in the long time that maybe we can get. Probably that UN Habitat, that new approach about what change this situation, but still not yet, I think, completed. And the third is a technology as pointed by Mr. Osman, and I fully agree on to introduce this some kind of technological solution about the IoT or something. But it is also still the time, we need the time, because this one closely related to the information disclosure. So maybe those three problems we should solve. Otherwise, we cannot get the reliable data. Thank you very much. That's my comment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yoshida, for the UNEP quality.
Potential role the UNEP can play in the area of the bringing more financing, investment, particularly for infrastructure development related to sound management of waste. I completely agree, and there are other platforms and networks that could be potentially linked to the work being done to really advance on this area of investment, mobilizing resources to direct towards sound management of waste. I would like to highlight the UN Environment Management Group. I just this is something, the second edition prepared by the UN Environment Management Group, coordinated by UNEP, but all we can direct more finance to sustainable infrastructure, to increase the sustainability of infrastructure, but also how we can direct more resources to called UNEP-FR. Very interesting because it works with the financial institution like banks and also the insurance company. And they have a very unique network of partners that would be essential, in my opinion, if you want to bring more finance into sustainability infrastructure like waste management or wastewater treatment. Thank you.
To the 5 minutes. 5 minutes of the break. I think yes, now I have I saw one hand up, maybe Mr. Osofa Muse, maybe could you unmute yourself and then go ahead with your question. I will take this final question and then we're going to the break. Mr. Muse, could you unmute yourself or is it a little bit difficult? Yes, yes, great. Please go ahead.
I just sent another one. Try that one.
Oui, bonjour tout le monde. Tout d'abord, je remercie cette plateforme parce que ça nous permet de partager beaucoup d'expériences.
Because here we can share experiences, and the presentation I have already watched show that sharing experiences with others is important. I represent the National Agency for Waste Management. I'm the director, and I would like to thank JICA because thanks to them, I benefited from training, which has allowed me to occupy this position. And I have a question which may have already been asked, but yesterday I had connection problems, so I couldn't follow all the discussions. But I have a question regarding funding, because we have tried to raise awareness. But the great problem we have now is the question of landfill. We don't have properly controlled landfill sites. Our sites are illegal. People collect waste and throw it directly into those sites, which are completely unregulated. So my question is, what can we do through this platform to obtain technicians to help us have expertise and funding as well? Because without this, we can't do anything about this landfill problem. And given that my country, the Comoro Island, is divided into 3 main islands, we need 1 specific site per island. I'm asking you this question, which may have already been asked, because as I said, I wasn't able to attend yesterday, but I would like to know how I can access these opportunities that other countries seemingly benefit from. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the final comments. It's very, very important. And then also the emphasizing the very importance of the city-to-city and the mutual learning. I think that we are very happy to hear that the cities are learning each other from this platform. So now I would like to give 5 minutes of break. I think you can stretch yourself a little bit, and then and then we can go back to the next session.